Cheers, guys. Epix 911, welcome to the Game Friday, September 8th, 2017 edition of VR News. And I know Game Friday is a happy occasion. It's a gaming night, family, friends, etc. End of a work week, start of a relaxing weekend. It's also, unfortunately, a weekend that's going to bring a very powerful storm, Hurricane Irma, to Florida after already having ravaged some Caribbean islands. Any viewers of this channel that happen to live there, I do hope you guys are safe on this Game Friday to not only enjoy this one, but many more to come. And with that rather serious note, let's jump into the news for a little bit more lighthearted stuff. Jamie Feltham of Upload VR, he's got a review up on the Pico Goblin head-mounted display. We've talked about that device many times on the channel, featuring updates on it and original stories on it. The link is in the description, but I thought I would just post a summary of his findings. First of all, the 2.5K display, easily the best differentiator for the device, immediately noticeable compared to the lower resolutions of the other HMDs on the market. He states, the first time I put on the Pico Goblin, I have to admit I was floored. The 2.5K display provided a much clearer image than I was expecting for the price of the headset, and the Qualcomm Snapdragon 820 CPU-powered, visually impressive experiences. He found the price was a positive at $249 US, that it was comfortable, but a few things that made it feel cheap about the structure, such as the rubber nose bridge as an example. Also, while you can turn your head, because it only uses 3 degrees of freedom, it's limited to that, you cannot lean or move forward. There's some decent games right now, but the biggest issue is going to be the uphill struggle when it comes to gaming content and experiences in general. And I absolutely agree with that. Next story. As with Medium discussed the other day, Tilt Brush itself getting a feature-rich update. One of those is the ability to import blocks into Tilt Brush, where you can make changes and then share them on the web to vr.google.com/objects. They've also added a quick tool menu, allowing artists to swap tools without having to go back to the palette. I've got the link to the Google Docs, which has everything included in this update. And believe me, guys, there's a lot. So if you're a Tilt Brush fan, check it out. Then again, you were probably on that before I was. Anybody who's a casual user of Tilt Brush, maybe you put it aside for a while, this adds a lot of productivity features. Definitely check it out. The BBC announcing today that they are launching what they're calling BBC Reality Labs R&D. It's a wing of the BBC dedicated to virtual reality and augmented reality based on some of the things they've learned and experienced since they published their white paper on VR. Now, Canada, being a Commonwealth country, we're tied historically to the United Kingdom. There's a lot of commonalities between Canada and the UK, and indeed other Commonwealth countries. And one of those is the government public broadcasting channel, which of course is what the BBC is. Canada has one, it's called the CBC. Australia has one, it's called ABC. And I believe there's a few others in the Commonwealth that have that as well. The closest for any US viewers who may not be aware, think of it as PBS, but with more government involvement. That's kind of the best way. Whereas the government for PBS in the US funds to about the tune of, I think it's 12% on average. It's much higher, in fact, pretty much government driven in the Commonwealth countries. But with that little nugget, I like the fact that they've done this, that they're taking virtual reality serious enough to look into different aspects. And that's what's interesting about this, what that lab is actually going to be doing. So part of what they're going to look into as a R&D lab is tooling for content. So that, of course, is the software necessary to develop VR content, the hardware that's required. They're going to look into their partnerships. The BBC has a lot of partnerships in terms of how to best leverage those for virtual reality moving forward. That's when you're going to get neat stuff like nature documentaries or science stuff on space, which I'm always a sucker for. Seeing that type of stuff with advanced 360-degree presentations. Probably going to be pretty cool. Lastly, VR content itself up to the standards that they've put into place since they published that previous white paper. So I'm interested in what the end results of this are going to be, and if it's going to carry itself to the CBC, the ABC, etc., maybe even PBS in the US. It's just nice to see a channel, put direct R&D into virtual reality. Very cool. There's a neat thing that's happened to me, and I thought it'd be good to end the evening with, a little bit good news, albeit a horror game. It's still a game on a Game and Friday, and it's Don't Knock Twice. Saw the movie with my wife, which, truth be told, was just meh. It was okay, and I can't figure out what the issue is for me, but I've become increasingly desensitized to horror movies. Now, some of that probably because my wife and I watch a lot of them. Like sci-fi, it's one of our favorite genres. But I noticed something interesting. The horror movies that I've seen since playing Resident Evil 7, which I'm not kidding, I know it's cliche, I've said it before about it being cliche, it feels like something I lived through. The horror movies I've seen since the Resident Evil 7 experience, they just haven't been scary. The comparison to there is no comparison. It's infinitely more scary to me experiencing it in VR than watching it passively on television. Yeah, it's neat. I wonder if there's going to be studies on that or if it's just me and all in my head. But whatever. There you go. That's it for the Game and Friday edition. Like I said, guys, if you're living in the path of Irma, please, hopefully you and your families stay safe. The rest of you, Game and Friday, let's keep them in our thoughts, but definitely enjoy the night. As always, guys, cheers.